Rev up your engine! Okay, today I smell a rat. Customer just bought this car for his daughter to go to college. 2015 Subaru with 132,000 miles. He takes it up, drives it home, the check engine light comes on. The car starts overheating, so he takes it back. And they check it, and the guy, he said he had a temperature gun. He pointed at the engine and said, oh, it's not overheating. So they said they added coolant and took him on his merry way, right? Now, let's be logical here. They sold him a used car lot. They're supposed to check stuff out, so it should have been full of coolant. If it's not full of coolant, that usually means, duh, something's wrong with the engine or the cooling system, right? He drove it over here, and I literally smelled the rat, because as soon as he drove up, I could smell the coolant that was boiling out, leaking, whatever. As soon as he got within 10 feet of me, I open the hood, and I take the radiator cap off. Guess what? You can't even see the coolant. It's dry inside there. There, you can see the metal. My finger goes the whole way, and there's no coolant inside. Completely empty on the top. Obviously, it's losing coolant. They filled it up. So this car's got a problem. But I'm assuming the worst, because Subaru Boxer engine, they are notorious, absolutely notorious, for blowing head gaskets. This thing sat overnight. When I took the cap off, there was still pressure coming out. There should not be pressure inside a cooling system that sat for 14 hours. It definitely is cool enough out here. It should have no pressure, but it had pressure. When a head gasket's blown, it'll often build up a lot of pressure inside the engine that stays. So the first thing we're going to check to see, is this Subaru a typical blown head gasket that they just sold them, in which case I told them just take them back and demand your money back from these people. Customer told me it was a used car lot, and their mechanics checked it out. Let me tell you something. Most used car lots, they're any decent mechanics. They don't pay them much. I got offered a job once in Houston working for a mechanic at a used car lot. I just walked when the guy told me his terms. I said, you guys are just selling junk. You're trying to fix them as cheap as you can. You don't want to pay me any money, which was a smart move on my behalf. So instead, I started my own business and did quite well, being honest with people. Now, there's obviously something wrong with this car. It's losing coolant. And since it had the pressure, I'm really afraid it's got a blown head gasket. We're going to test for that right now. There could be a lot of other reasons too, but obviously the vehicle had a problem, and the idiotic car lot says, oh, you were just low on coolant. You gotta have a reason to be low on coolant, right? It just doesn't magically disappear. In this case, I think it's burning it, so let's get our test out. This blue test liquid, a test tube, you put it in the radiator. Liquid turns yellow if there's carbon dioxide in the radiator. Now, the radiator should just have antifreeze and water, 50-50 mix, right? If there is carbon dioxide, when you start your car, it burns gasoline, which is hydrogen and carbon, in Earth's atmosphere, and one of the byproducts is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide inside the radiator, that means the engine head gasket is throwing exhaust gas in, meaning that the head gaskets or something is broken inside the engine. Typically on these Subarus, it's a blown head gasket. Now, it could also be a cracked head, a cracked block, right? But it's really bad news, especially if you just bought a used car and the engine's bad like that. Hey, just take it back to them, get your money back. There are laws for pre-existing conditions. A used car lot, like a blown head gasket engine problem, they either got to fix it or give you another car. And from my experience, don't take it back and get it fixed or something like this, because the mechanics they have, they probably don't know how to fix it right anyway. Or they'll put a junkyard engine in, whatever. You get stuck like this, just demand your money back. Now, we'll see if it's blown. Poured it in, and this sucks air in. Now we start the car up. And as you can see, turned yellow already. Well, that was fast and easy. Now, sometimes it might take a while. It could be a very small head gasket leak. Sometimes you might have to run them 20 or 30 minutes before it changes colors. Now, if it would have stayed blue, that'd mean we got to search for another problem. Now, theoretically, this car may have more than one problem, right? But when a car is sitting ice cold like this one was, and you open the radiator cap and it goes after it's been sitting 12, 14 hours, that often means your head gasket's built up pressure. It just stays in the system because the radiator cap is a 15-pound cap. It'll hold 15 pounds of pressure. And there shouldn't be any pressure, because once the coolant cools down, it's got zero pressure. Take a nice car like my wife's matrix, take the radiator cap off, etc. Nothing happens. You just take it off and there it is and you see the coolant. It doesn't go shh and then it's empty of coolant because it's burning the coolant since there's a problem inside the engine. Either a blown head gasket, cracked head, like I say. Any way you look at it, the engine would have to be torn down and rebuilt. And he just bought this thing for his daughter at a used car lot that obviously, one, either didn't know what they were doing or visibly ripped them off. And obviously the mechanics either didn't care or didn't know because they just added coolant. Oh yeah, that's going to fix it, right? Why is the coolant gone? It's gone because the engine's burning it. And of course, if it's been doing it for a while, it will destroy the catalytic converter, the oxygen sensors, all the anti-pollution control equipment. They're not made to have burnt antifreeze coating them and clogging them up, right? No, in this case, he's going to take it back. And I hope they give him his money back. Or maybe another car, something. Get rid of this thing. They didn't stand behind it. They didn't even test it. They just added some coolant. The dye doesn't lie. It's turned yellow. There's carbon dioxide in the engine. Now, it's not as simple as you might think. A lot of guys will say, well, if the head gasket's blown, isn't the car going to run like crap? Not yet. Who knows when it's going to start running like crap, but not yet. Because if just the gasket between the cooling holes of the engine and the head gasket is blown, it will start burning coolant. But it can still run okay because the rest of it is sealed okay. It's good enough. It's a small leak inside. But nevertheless, it's a leak. Eventually, it's going to get worse. Of course, if you didn't add the coolant, it would overheat immediately. He just bought this thing. He needs to take it back. Now, let's say you're stuck with one of these things. It's your car. You've had it for 8 years and it does this. You can try stuff like the Blue Devil head gasket sealer that they sell at the auto parts store for like $29, $30. It works okay, as long as the coolant's clean. It works okay. It might last a little while. But he just bought this thing for his daughter. They need to just give him his money back and go someplace else. He gave him a try. He said, look, it's got problems. And they're like, oh, it's just low on coolant, right? They reset the engine light and said it's low on coolant. So just for kicks, we're going to run a scan on this thing. We'll check out to see how badly ripped off we got. We got my fancy scan tool down there. Hooked it up here. Here we go. Diagnostics. Detected the vehicle. Great scan tool. Standalone diagnostics. There we go. And North America, Subaru Forester, 2015. And you can do a full topology scan. So here goes the scan. And while it's going, I mean, the interior's okay. They have an awful lot of space. These Foresters are certainly well set up for carrying things. But so far, it really looks like he got ripped off. It's got 8 codes. Let's go through them all. ABS, speed sensor, ECM, automatic transmission, longitude, sun load sensor, current or open. Well, that often goes bad in here. Too much complexity. It measures the temperature of the sun to cool you off better. But that's broken. The airbag system. It's got codes too. Occupant detection system malfunction. So whatever in here, that's not working right. Combination meter has codes. Occupant detection. Well, that's probably the same one as the airbag. I bet it'll say something about the passenger seat. We'll see. Passenger detection sensor, Matt. Yeah, that's problem there. Now, I believe he bought this car in New Hampshire. And I don't know what the laws are there, but take the state of Texas. A used car lot cannot sell somebody a car with an airbag system that is not operating correctly. It's against the law. They can be fined a whole bunch of money. So I don't know what the law is in New Hampshire, but I would assume they're supposed to sell you a car that has a working airbag system. Now we know that. Let's check out some live data. We'll start her up. Go to the main data, and we'll go up here to live data. All right, let's start looking at stuff. The airflow sensor's not bad. One is perfect. It's close to perfect. The timing's decent. Now, the long-term fuel trim, it's adding 6.3% fuel. And that doesn't surprise me with a blowing head gasket, because the head gasket's blowing. It is burning coolant, right? Coolant doesn't burn like gasoline does. So that will make it not burn correctly. Computer thinks it's running lean. So in the long term, it's adding 6.3% fuel. And that's to compensate for the water and coolant being burned, because they don't burn like gasoline. So the computer gets fooled and thinks, well, there isn't enough fuel. There's probably enough fuel, but there's too much water in it to confuse it, so it adds extra fuel. And now you can see after you warm it up a little, the long-term fuel trim has gone up to 10.9% because it's probably burning even more of the coolant now. I had to add 2 quarts of coolant to the car because that's how low it was from him driving it here. It burned through 2 quarts of coolant. and I'm not going to drive a car and run it low on coolant, so I've added the coolant to it. And now that it's added, you see, the fuel trim's going even higher, because before it probably had air, and the air wasn't as bad, but now it's all the way filled with coolant, so it's going to burn more coolant faster. Hence, the fuel trim goes up higher. Well, look at the rest of the data. It's not running too bad yet. Battery temperature's good. Notice, fuel system for bank 1, it says close to normal. It's not normal because it's burning the coolant, so it says close to normal. It would have said normal, yeah, then you'd kind of think, but it says close to normal because it's starting to go bad. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow it'll go completely, smoke will come out of the tailpipe, and that's all she wrote. It won't run anymore, right? But it's running okay now, but he just bought the stupid thing, and it shouldn't have these problems from the used car lot. Give me some interesting information, because this says it's got 134,547 miles on it. Yet my machine says 131,070 kilometers, which is completely different. That's kind of crazy. It's not lying, that's what it says. So this baby's just got too many problems now. He's in New Hampshire, I'm in Rhode Island. He's a fan, he drove the whole way down. If he would have lived around here and would have brought me to check it out, I would have told him not to buy the thing. But there's all these problems, and the question about the real mileage that's on it, he needs to just get his money back. And in this case, guess what? It's just starting to blow the head gasket. It's losing coolant, but it isn't bad enough that it gets to the extreme range. That's the problem with the software crap. Yeah, your car might not be running right. You plug in a computer and there's no codes. Well, you will feel an engine that's shaking and running bad long before the computer will, because the computer has to have a certain range, like 25% plus or minus. So if it's 10% off, you can feel it, but the computer won't. It won't trip any codes. That's why you need guys like me to analyze these things. And of course, this is why you don't buy cars from sleazy used car dealers to tell you, oh, it's not overheating, we'll just add some coolant. Hey, the coolant disappeared. It disappeared because the engine's blowing it, because the head gasket or the head's cracked and something inside the engine. Hopefully, they'll give him his money back. I'll ask him when he picks it up, goes back to New Hampshire. Hopefully it'll make it to New Hampshire. I'm going to tell him every time he stops, let it cool a little, add some extra water in, because it is burning coolant, because there's a problem in the engine, which Subarus often have. This is why, if you're going to buy a used car, you pay a guy like me to check it out. Now, I check them out for free, so if you're near Portsmouth, Rhode Island, or Clarksville, Tennessee, when I'm there, call me up during the weekdays. I check them out for free, makes great videos to warn people about stuff. ScottyKilmer@gmail.com, just email me. But in this case, hopefully he'll either get his money back or a different vehicle. Unfortunately, the used car lot is in New Hampshire, I'm in Rhode Island, so he's not going to be able to bring it to me to check it out first, but hey, at least he brought this one. We found out the engine's, and they can't give him any more BS about, oh, it's not overheating. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.